Okay, so I want to take a look at an issue today that might be costing you sales when it comes to designing your own covers for your low content and medium content books. I see this all the time with examples that people send me, and I think people don't realize how incredibly important your front cover for your book is. Okay, so the problem that a lot of us run into when operating on a low budget and designing these things ourselves is trying to create a cover that is more complex than what our own design skills allow us to do. So a lot of us are not skilled enough to create covers like the one I'm about to show you now. So this cover here is extremely good, and it's in a lower content niche, and it's selling extremely well. The cover is absolutely beautiful. And what happens when we find books like this, we think, well, this is a nice niche unicorn coloring book for kids age 4 to 8, as we can see here. Then we'll scroll down and we'll see that the ranking is 392, which is exceptionally good. And then we think, well, I'm working on a low budget, so I can create my unicorn coloring book for kids age 4 to 8 on Canva or some other free software, and I can put my own version of this book out onto Amazon's marketplace. Now the problem is this: when it comes to trying to create more complex covers than what our skill set actually allows, we end up creating things, and I mean no disrespect to the author's book here, but we end up creating things that look kind of like this, and we don't really know what we're doing. We end up putting these graphics in, we try and make it look fancy, we put a few different colors and a few different font effects, and we got graphics going on all over the place, and we think that looks good because this other person here, they're doing the same thing. They're putting these graphics in, they're putting these cool types of fonts in, and they've got lots going on this picture here. They've got lots going on their cover, so I need to have lots going on my cover as well. And the reality is, if you can't create something like this yourself that looks absolutely amazing, then you can't really create covers that well. And when you're entering a niche, a competitive niche like unicorn coloring books, you need to be able to create very good looking covers like other people are doing, especially for coloring books where the appeal is extremely visual, and ultimately our design comes out looking bad. And I don't think people realize the importance of a good looking cover when it comes to these niches. Okay, so that's the first trap that we fall into, is thinking that we can create more complex design than we actually can. And the next one, I'm going to use this baby shower guest book as an example here. The next issue that we fall into is creating these covers and then just having baby shower guest book on the front like this person here is doing. So what we're doing, we're coming over, we found our niche, this looks good, baby shower guest book, it's on the front cover, and we think to ourselves, right, that's fine, I need to go ahead now and create a book that says baby shower guest book, have that on my front cover, because that's what we do, right? We take inspiration from these other books and then we kind of do our own version of them. So maybe we'll have like a black background instead, and we'll have a different image of a different animal on the front, and we'll just have baby shower guest book on the front like this person does. Simple. Unfortunately not. We'll come out with things that look kind of like this, where we just have baby shower guest book on the front cover here. And if you had these two books side by side, which would you buy out of this one, this cover here, and this one here? So you'd obviously buy this one here. And again, the problem comes down to how well you can design your covers, because the person that designed this cover, like, to me, that looks absolutely brilliant. Like, this is another fantastic cover, and they don't have to do too much different with their cover other than have baby shower guest book and a graphic on the front, just because their design skills overall are so very, very good. So if we look at this cover, for example, like, we don't know where to get this image from here. I don't have a clue where we would get this type of font from. I don't understand how we would have this kind of like, it's like a pink darker shade shadow kind of thing going on here. It all works together. It looks brilliant. The floral scene at the top here is absolutely perfect. It doesn't look like someone just printed a couple graphics on there. It looks like a hand-drawn job, and it looks absolutely fantastic. So these books that have just the words on the front of what the niche is, they are exceptional. They are so good, and most of us can't create this type of book, and a lot of us don't want to hire someone on a lower content book to create these type of covers, because it's going to add up to a lot of money. And then we end up putting things like this out there on the marketplace where we think our budget's so low, I need to make a simple cover. And of course, I'm going to go down to the ranking here, and this doesn't even have a ranking. Books like this won't really make you many sales unless you're putting lots out there, which I've never really recommended that you do. Just shove as many out as you can that are low quality. So ultimately what I'm getting at here is that you need to understand your level of design skill. So if it's not as good as something like this, then you need to think how you can attack this niche. Like if you're interested in this niche, you need to think how you can attack it that doesn't try and just copy this type of design here, because you'll never make something as good as this cover if you're making them yourself and you don't have design skill. So if you can't create something like this, then you're not that good at design, and it's something that you need to come to terms with when it comes to creating more complex books. So what do? What we need to do here is take a more simplistic and unique route with our front cover. So let's take a look at what I mean by that, okay? Okay, so the first thing that we can do here, and before we start even creating the cover, is to do our niche research slightly better and be a bit more realistic with what we can do. So if I come across a niche like a unicorn coloring book, like a lot of people who are doing KDP, they'll come across these unicorn coloring books because a lot of people use them as examples in their video. The first thing that you need to do if you're designing your own covers is to just drop these niches, especially if you're spending a lot of time doing the interiors for these books, because ultimately a book like this needs a good cover. Whether you believe it or not, this needs to have a good cover in order to start seeing sales, especially in a marketplace where unicorn and coloring books are combined. It's incredibly popular, but it's also incredibly competitive as well. And for the most part, to be honest, if you're looking for a unicorn coloring book and you're trying to target just that, look at this book here. It has 14,000 reviews at 4.8. It's got a beautiful cover. It's the first book that comes up. Are people really going to buy? Are they going to find your book? So that's the first thing you need to do, is just drop the idea of certain niches. Even if you think it sounds good, if you can't create a cover that matches what your customer expects from that book, then don't even bother. So that's not to say that if you have a half decent book cover, so for example, something like this here, which isn't anything special, but it's still quite good and it makes sense. It doesn't look like it's done by an absolute amateur. It's still decent and it's on the first page here and it's still making sales. So you can see sales if you're going this route, but the chances of you making the sales become less and less likely if the quality of your cover is low. Okay, so let's talk about the simplistic and unique route that I was on track to talk about. Okay, so I'm just going to use a random example for this here. So I've just gone ahead and typed in fill in the blank book for boyfriends. This is kind of things that people are buying at Valentine's Day for their partners to fill in and do whatever it is they put in these type of books. It doesn't matter. But what I want to show you is that a book like this one here, it's simplistic and it's also unique. So it's simplistic in the sense that it is just black and white. So it's a black background with a white text, and it just has on the front cover, I wrote this for you. Now, most people can look at that and they would say that's not a very great looking cover. There's nothing really graphically, technically good about this cover here, but it's simplistic and it's unique and it fits the niche that they're going for. And of course, this probably took them around 2 minutes to make this type of book. All they did was come up with the phrase on the front, I wrote this, whatever, for you. And this is a much better approach than just having something. So imagine this cover here, but imagine it just has on the front, it just has the keywords on the front, like blank love journal on the front. Instead of the phrase that they've gone for, it just says blank love journal. Who would buy that? Like the design would look terrible because it would have nothing going for it other than it being simplistic. But it's not enough to just be simplistic. It has to have that unique element to it as well, which is the quote on the front, which is the funny saying. So it's got 22 reviews on it, 3.9. Maybe the interior is not great for this one, hence the bad reviews. It's ranked 938,000, but I can guarantee that this has been selling at Valentine's, and obviously we are nowhere near Valentine's, so the sales have naturally dropped off for this one. But as an example, you can see what I'm getting at here. It's simplistic and it's unique. And this is something that everyone can design. If you can't design this, then no one can help you. So this is how we make money with our low content books, by creating these simplistic interiors when we're not good at design. So we're dropping those niches that we think need to have good designs, like coloring books, for example, unless of course you're incredibly niche specific and there's plenty of room for you to stand out just through virtue of you having no competition, but that's unlikely. So we just use our brains a bit and we think of something unique that might speak to our target audience. So this is for someone's boyfriend or girlfriend who has this type of humor, and it works. It's going to make sales during Valentine's, and it's probably going to make sales for Valentine's every year with this book. So what do we do when we're doing our niche research and we come across a book like this and we see that it's making sales Obviously this one is a bad example because it is very seasonal, i.e. Valentine's Day. But what do we do when we see that we have a good selling book? It's simplistic, we can design this ourselves. We need to put our own spin on it, and it's got to make sense as well. So if you find an independently published book like this one here and it's selling well and it has a very minimalistic design, just take a look at what factors there are that are just staring at you right in the face right now. So it's black and white, it's got a swear word in it, and it's got big bold text on the front cover. So we can put all those things together and create our own version of this book. But not only do we create our own version, but we can make something like this look better. Despite it being simplistic, we can actually make this look better by picking a better font, by aligning our text better than what this person has done here. So with all those factors taken into consideration, I've now found a niche that's selling, and it also fits within my own abilities to create a cover for this niche. Okay, so most of us that are doing our own covers are going to be using something like Canva, which is more than enough to create very simple covers. And what I've done here, just very quickly, obviously this isn't the world's greatest cover, but I've taken all the information that I've taken from the books that are selling well that I can do myself. I've taken that information, made my own variation of it. So theirs was, I wrote this whatever for you. So I've done my own here, and this is just a load of cute that I wrote, and it's a blank Valentine journal if you want to have that on the front as well, for example. So instantly what I'm doing here is I'm entering a niche that I know is popular. If we've done our research correctly, we'll know that the niche is popular. I've entered the niche with a cover that is 100% unique that no one else has on Amazon. And that's how I'm going to drive sales to my book. So obviously, just because you've done something unique like this and you put this out on Amazon doesn't mean it's going to make sales. But everything we do is about increasing our chances of making sales. So if you come out into this niche with a cover that looks something like this, where you've just put the name of the niche on the front cover and you just picked up a few graphics and just shoved them onto your book, then I think you are limiting your chances of making these sales in this niche. So just to quickly note here, when it comes to your higher content books, so you're making a higher content book and you've put a lot of time into making the interior yourself or writing the interior, you spent a lot of time doing that, or you've paid decent money to have your interior made, then if you can't design, don't even bother trying to do something. Always hire someone to do your design for you. And with your lower content books, if you can implement some sort of graphic into it without making it look like you've tried to make something complex that you aren't capable of doing, then you can do that as well, I believe. But when it comes to doing this, I think symmetry is very important, and you've got to look at the cover and it's got to just look decent to you when you put graphics in it, okay? It's got to make it look like you've not tried too hard to create something fancy, because I found like the longer that I take trying to make my book look fancy, the worse it becomes. So with these simplistic designs, there are plenty of niches. Pretty much any low content niche that you can think of, there is going to be room for some sort of simplistic design, okay? So that doesn't mean that every single niche that you enter that's low content, you're going to have a black background with a white funny phrase on the front or whatever. You need to obviously be in theme with what other people are doing. You need to be in theme with what is selling is the most important thing you can take from this. And if I had to, in the niche that we've just been looking at, pick out a cover that I absolutely love, I'm going to go with this one here. It's just simplistic. It's got graphic design in it as well, but it makes sense with the two little lovebirds looking at each other. Very nice colors. The font looks good. It's got a unique little thing on the front that says the story of us instead of just memory journal. I think it's great. This is a really, really nice, simplistic, unique cover. And it's selling well. So if you were doing this niche, you could take inspiration from what they are doing. Obviously, that doesn't mean copying. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope this has given you some ideas of how you can create simplistic and unique covers for low content books. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. There'll be plenty more on the way soon.